The first thing I noticed when I moved in wasn't the peeling wallpaper or the heavy scent of lavender. Masking something rancid it was the box, a small, rotting wooden thing wedged deep under the bed like it had tried to crawl away and die. There, when I touched it, the wood was damp and icy, almost pulsing, like it had a heartbeat. The latch gave way with a snap that echoed too loud in the silence. Inside, black and white photos of a teenage girl, her face violently scratched out, and everyone, her eyes, though gone, seemed to follow me. Beneath the pictures, tucked into a blood-stained cloth, was a fingernail still attached to a strip of skin, red, polished, chipped. I gagged. There was a metallic temps in the air, thick as copper. I could taste it in my throat, like blood. While that night, I dreamt of fire and salt, of a girl screaming in a language I didn't know. Visions surged an old ritual, a mirror cracked in 7 places, group of villagers burying something that wasn't quite dead. The journal I later found tucked behind a broken baseboard confirmed it. Mallory Reed's hadn't been the first, and the thing that lived in this house, this room, was older than anything the church could name. They had tried salt, ash, prayer. It only made him hungrier at first. I believed leaving the light on would protect me. The next morning, nothing had moved. I breathed. Okay, maybe it was all in my head. But then I noticed a faint handprint on the inside of my mirror. Too small to be mine, fresh to be old. In the box, it was sealed again. But this time, it was breathing. Asterisk, the room always felt cold, no matter how high I turned up the radiator. It wasn't just the chill of old walls, it was a deep, marrow-soaking cold, like standing in a grave. At night, I'd hear it breathing again. Not from the box, from the room itself.
Tease.
The floorboards groaned without weight. The door creaked, open inch by inch, though I locked it every time. Faint whispers echoed through the vents, soft, raspy, speaking a dialect that scraped the inside of my skull. The air carried a sour rot, like old meat soaked in metal. It clung to my throat. I stopped eating. My tongue tasted like pennies. During the day, I'd tell myself it was all in my head. The sun would filter through the curtains, and for a few hours, the house was quiet. I'd even laugh at myself, until I found the blood. Thin streaks, like veins, running down the bathroom tiles, scrubbed until my hands bled. The next morning, they were back. Only now, they pulsed. I tried to leave once. I packed a bag, made it to the front door, but the knob twisted on its own. The door swung open. Beyond it, nothing. Just black, endless, breathing black. The landlord left a note under my door. Don't rearrange the furniture. That's what woke her up last time. No name, no signature. Just the note and a tiny sachet of dried herbs. I burned them. The room laughed. I found another of Mallory's belongings tucked inside the closet, while a charm carved from bone, a protection symbol, cracked in half. The wallpaper behind it began to peel, not from moisture from underneath, like fingers clawing their way out. That night, I opened the window for air and saw her face in the reflection inside the glass. Smiling, asterisk, the first real sign that something was wrong, truly wrong, came at 3:12 a.m. I remember the exact time because the digital clock blinked in red, frozen. The air was still. Then came the sound, soft, deliberate, like bare feet dragging slowly across the wooden floor just outside my bedroom door. Not footsteps, a smear, as if something too damaged to walk was pulling itself toward me. I held my breath, heart pounding against my ribs like a warning drum. Then silence, complete, suffocating silence. Even the ticking clock had stopped when I finally found the courage to open the door. The hallway was empty, but colder than before. The walls felt damp, and as my fingers brushed the paint, it flaked away, revealing something darker underneath. Not wood, not plaster, flesh. I recoiled, gagged. The air reeked of wet copper and rot. I could taste the decay on my tongue, thick and warm like old blood. I lit incense, salted the windowsills. I recited a protection prayer I found online, copied from a local folklore page about the weeping mirror, a legend tied to the region. It spoke of an entity bound to reflections, feeding on grief and guilt, banished only through absolute silence. I turned off all sound. The house seemed to settle. For 3 days, nothing happened. I started to breathe again. I slept. I even opened the blinds. And then, on the 4th night, I found long strands of wet hair in my sink. Not mine, not dry, as if someone had just bathed. I ran my hand along the mirror. My reflection blinked twice. I only blinked once. Asterisk, I needed answers. My grip on reality was thinning, unraveling like old thread. Hadn't eaten in days. Everything tasted like rust and bile. Even water burned going down. The light bulbs in the hall flickered with a low buzz, and the drywall sweated a brown, iron-smelling fluid that dripped in slow, mocking rhythm. I started searching the house more thoroughly, pushing past the dread, gnawing at my ribs. Behind the boiler in the basement where the heat never reached high, found a sealed crate wrapped in a waxed string. Inside was a water-damaged journal wrapped in yellowed cloth. The handwriting inside was erratic, the ink smeared, as if written with shaking hands. It belonged to a girl named Clara Reed's Mallory's older sister. She wrote of the mirror curse, of something they'd summoned accidentally through a broken seance. Something that didn't belong in this world, but came anyway. Clara believed the entity fed on reflection, haunt the self and could only enter through cracked glass. She described a ritual one of the townsfolk once used to bind the thing inside a mirror, using lamb's blood, black salt, and silence during the witching hour. But something went wrong. The final sentence read, "Mallory didn't stay silent. I tried finding the ingredients. I managed the salt, but lamb's blood. In this dead-end town, the butcher shop had burned down months ago. I called the local priest, desperate. He answered with a whisper, 'You're in the Reed's house, aren't you? You should have never opened the box.' Then the line went dead. For a while, the house was quiet again. I taped over every mirror. I covered reflective surfaces. No more hair, no more whispers. But then, I found something new under my pillow. A shard of mirror. My reflection was smiling. Asterisk, the first time she spoke. It came from the walls. At 3:33 a.m., the witching hour was jolted awake by the sound of wet creaking, like wood swelling with blood. Then came the whisper, low, childish, crawling beneath the floorboards and up the drywall. "You won't find your body if you sleep too long." Her voice was cracked glass, both a giggle and a threat. I couldn't move. My tongue was dry, heavy, with a taste of metal and something rotting. My room pulsed with heat, though the air was cold enough to fog the windows. The walls began to bleed. Not a metaphor, actual thick rivulets of crimson seeping from the corners like tears from a wounded house. I stumbled to the closet to find towels, but instead found a mirror one I had covered the night before, now uncovered. In its reflection, the room was empty, save for a figure standing behind me. I turned. Nothing. That was when I saw the mark etched into the wood beneath my bed. It's an ancient sigil resembling an open eye with jagged lines radiating out. I remembered it from Clara's journal. Do not break the eye's gaze. I tried reaching out. "Mallory," I whispered. "Are you still here?" The air grew thick. I felt fingers brush the back of my neck wet, freezing. Then the mirror fogged. From the inside, 3 words slowly appeared in the condensation. "You let her out." The entity hadn't been trying to hurt me. She had been trying to warn me. Then came the knock. Not at the door, but inside the closet. 3 slow taps. But one. Pause. And then whispers in a different voice. A voice that didn't belong to Mallory. I followed the knocking to the attic. The air thickened as I climbed, heavy with the copper stench of blood and something fouler like meat left in the sun too long. Each step moaned under my weight, the wood sticky and cold, as if the house itself didn't want me going up there. When I pulled the attic cord, dust rained down, coating my lips with the taste of old paper and decay. Inside was pitch black, except for a single shaft of moonlight slicing through the broken window, illuminating a mound of something covered by a moth-eaten sheet. The moment I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me. I froze. The silence was unnatural, so complete, it rang in my ears. Then came the sound of soft breathing. Not mine. I peeled the sheet back with trembling fingers. Bones, a child's skeleton, curled as if trying to protect itself. It clutched, too. Its chest was a porcelain doll with one eye missing, its mouth sewn shut with wire dot. Then the visions started. My head snapped back, my skull pounding as images flooded in a ritual circle of children, chanting in a forgotten language, their faces painted in ash. A woman with a stitched mouth whispering backwards prayers. Mallory wasn't just haunted, she was the haunted, bound here by blood rites, performed by desperate villagers to trap something far worse. The doll had been the vessel, the sigil, the key. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat, when I heard the lullaby. A warped version of Rockabye Baby, sung slowly in a voice like cracked ice. The doll's head turned, just slightly. I dropped it and ran. Door wouldn't open. Then something touched my ankle. Not a hand, something with claws. Asterisk. The thing beneath the attic boards didn't grab it, caressed. Long, wet fingers sliding over my skin like slugs dipped in ice water. I kicked free and scrambled toward the hatch, my fingernails scraping splinters as I clawed at the wood. Just as the door gave way, silence fell. No breathing, no singing, no thing. I tumbled into the hallway, gasping. For a moment, it was gone. The stench of rot and copper receded. The walls stopped pulsating like lungs. I laughed, short, shaky. Maybe it was over. Maybe I had imagined it. Then I saw the blood seeping from beneath my bedroom door. Thick, dark, unnatural. It trickled in veins along the hallway like it knew where I was. Inside, the walls led symbols, circular, jagged, burned into the plaster beneath peeling wallpaper. The same markings from the attic vision, a curse old as the village. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket. One new photo. I hadn't taken it. It showed me asleep, but something stood over me. A blur of darkness with eyes like rusted nails. I dropped the phone. The entity wasn't Mallory. She was the bait. The real evil was older, a parasitic force that fed on mourning and memory. Locals had tried to trap it inside Mallory's remains. Doll, her bones using forbidden rituals, whispered through cracked church bells during eclipses. But the rite had failed. Instead of binding it, they invited it. My thoughts scattered. Couldn't remember how long I'd lived here. Days, weeks, okay? The photos on the wall were of me, but not ones I remembered posing for. My reflection no longer blinked in sync. From behind the closet door came a sound wet, dragging, and a voice low and dry. Not her room, mine. The handle began to turn. Slowly, quietly, purposefully. Asterisk. The door burst open, not with force, but with a sigh, like the house itself was exhaling rot. Cold air slithered out, carrying the stench of decay in wet copper. My tongue tasted iron and bile. Inside the closet, shadows bloomed. They coiled upward, crawling along the ceiling like veins reaching for a heart. The light bulb above buzzed, then shattered in a single sharp pop, plunging everything into darkness. Then the whispers began, not from the closet, from the walls. They hissed in dead tongues, fragmented prayers, backwards lullabies. A girl crying, "It's not over, it's not over, it's not over, ... dot dot dot." I backed into the hallway, but the floor turned slick. Blood, fresh and warm, poured from the walls like sweat. It soaked my socks. I slipped, hit my head, and blinked through red static. A vision bloomed in my mind, the ritual. I saw villagers binding a child's corpse with black twine, a masked priest whispering to something unseen, and a warning carved in bone. She must not remember. Mallory had remembered, and now it was feeding. I screamed for help. My voice died in the thick, coppery air. Dot, then dash, silence. All at once, the room calmed. The bleeding stopped. The lights flickered on. My phone buzzed again. A text. "You're safe now." I sobbed, trembling. Maybe it was done. Then I looked at the screen. It wasn't my reflection anymore. It was hers. Mallory, mouth open too wide. Hollow, standing in my place. Behind me, I turned. Nothing there. The ceiling above ground then cracked open like skin tearing. Something poured down here. Fingernails? Old teeth? The last thing I heard before it swallowed me was the sound of giggling, dot, childlike, endless, and then a voice from the walls whispered, "You live here now?" The hallway door slammed shut behind me and locked. Asterisk. I woke up in my bed, at least what looked like my bed. The sheets were damp, not with sweat, with something thicker, copper-scented. My fingers came away red, blood, fresh and sticky. But my body didn't move like it used to. I felt disconnected, like I was piloting a corpse from somewhere behind my own eyes. The walls had changed overnight. The wallpaper peeled like rotting skin, revealing pulsing veins underneath. They throbbed when I blinked. Every breath I took tasted like rust and something sweet like rotting fruit soaked in bile. The ceiling fan creaked slowly above me, but its blades cast shadows that didn't match their movement. I stumbled to the mirror. My face looked back, but not just mine. Hillary's features shimmered beneath my skin, her hollow eyes flickering over mine, her mouth twitching before mine moved. I clawed at my own face. Skin came away to Isley, too cleanly. Then the lullaby began again. It came from inside the walls, a child's voice, low and off-key, singing a local nursery rhyme. Remembered the town's warnings. Now, don't take the attic room. It remembers too much. There had been stories of the girl who vanished, of the room that mourned, and of a ritual botched so badly, split the boundary between the living and whatever waits beneath. I grabbed the suitcase, ran the front door opened. I saw daylight, relief, for a breath. Then the light-blinked hand turned red. The hallway behind me vanished, replaced by rusted stairs, descending into blackness. A child's handprint smeared itself across the wall beside me, fresh, wet, still warm. And then I heard it again, a knock from under the floorboards, followed by a voice whispering, "We were never alone." Asterisk. I ran until the town disappeared behind me, but the copper stench lingered in my nostrils like the blood had soaked into my lungs. I thought I was free. Days passed. Stayed with a friend in another city, far from that cursed house. No creaking floorboards, no lullabies, just silence. I almost believed it was over. Then the dreams began. First was Mallory standing at the foot of my bed, her mouth stitched shut, her eyes leaking ink. I'd wake up, choking on the taste of bile, the sheets cold and wet, not sweat. Never sweat. The mirror in the bathroom fogged itself at night, and words would scrawl into it. Still here. My screams were swallowed by the stillness. The apartment listened. I tried cleansing rituals. I read in old forms burned sage, poured salt across every threshold. For a night, it worked. I slept without interruption. It's false hope again. The next morning, I found the salt line broken by a trail of tiny, bloody footprints. Desperate, I revisited the town archives. In an old, locked box labeled unfiled, I found Mallory's diary. Her mother had dabbled in Kafishadaya band ritual, rooted in ancient local folklore, a way to seal grief into a space. It backfired. Instead of keeping the sorrow in, it gave it form. Mallory had died during the rite, her soul fractured, not released, bound to the room, to anyone who stayed. Now I see her in reflections, in puddles. In the screen when I turned off the TV. Yesterday, a knock came at the door. No one was there. Tonight, it came again. But this time, the door opened on its own, and inside, it's another room, just like hers, and I hear the lullaby starting over.